When children are raised under a lot of fear, they don't tend to have the opportunity to create their own identity. Their identity comes from not getting into trouble. Like, I'm this way when this happens, but they're constantly on alert, and they don't get a chance to really make mistakes and learn who they truly are. So I feel like that happened to me. I still do identity work.
Welcome back to the Positively Healthy Mom podcast. Just a quick reminder, if you haven't heard part 1 of my conversation with Stacy, that was published last week. Definitely hit pause and go listen to it first. For everyone else who is ready to go, let's jump right back into our conversation with relationship repair coach and founder of the Family Peace Project, Stacy Greer. I would love to switch gears a little bit and shift over to kind of the hope or the dream or the what if. And what I mean by that is if you can really, not if you can, when you really fulfill this mission that you want of creating safe families and creating safe parents for people, I want to know like how that can stop. I mean, this term that I'm about to use sounds really big and heavy, but I'm going to call it generational trauma, where things get passed down from, parent to child, and it keeps going on and on. I once saw a meme, and I hate that I haven't been able to find it again, but there's similar ones online, but there's this one that was so powerful that I saw one time. And it's this train coming and this mom literally holding her hand up, and on the other side of her was her children. And and the train was labeled generational trauma, and how much strength it takes from a parent to be able to recognize those patterns from the past. Be able to then be the transformation so that then her kids can have the benefit of that, not just her kids, but her grandkids and future generations. So what do you have to say about that?
That's a big part of my mission, is to help parents change that generational trauma. And again, it starts with parents becoming aware of what they are passing on and what does need to be healing. And it's so hard, I think, to do it on your own. I think that it's because you're so just living your life and things make sense. So we do a lot of justifying, like, I should be mad at that because that is something that you should be mad at or whatever. And it takes somebody like a third person to say, how else can we take a look at this? Because I just think that the awareness of what people are bringing forward to the next generation is so important. And I know clients, when they're telling me about their past, they cannot identify with a sibling or a parent, and they're doing the exact same thing. Like, it's really hard for them to see that they might be having different behavior than how their sibling does it, but the same core fear or the same identity is still being played out. And so I think that it's easy to look at your sibling or look at your mom or look at your dad and say, like, I'm not stubborn, or I don't need to be in control. And they can show all the ways that their parent or their siblings have to be in control all the time. But as they're telling me their story, it's like, I have something I'd like to reflect back to you, or there's something that I'm observing. And then we talk about it. And as soon as they hear it, it's like a light bulb goes off, and it's like, oh my goodness, like, and once you have that awareness and that light bulb moment, everything can change. You will recognize it in everything you say and in everything you do, but it's getting that help in identifying what it is that we are bringing forward.
Right. Man, that sure made me think of a couple things. One is, the term narcissist is thrown around quite a bit these days. And that's not to discount anyone's feelings about someone else that they're with, because there's been times when I heard someone say that to me, like, oh, everybody overuses that term. But I'm like, well, I've actually had a very terrible experience with a narcissist. So don't tell me that that doesn't exist, right? So I don't want anybody to think I'm discounting them. However, because this term is so popular these days, like one person can say, well, I want pizza, and the other person wants tacos. And it's like, well, you're a narcissist because it's all about you because you want pizza, right? And so I think it's like important to like when someone is calling someone else a name, whether they're saying it to their
Yeah.
face, which hopefully they're not, but they might be, or thinking it, I find it's important to sit, like, reflect back and say, wait, am I the narcissist
Oh,
here, or am I the whatever fill in the blank term
yeah.
you want to use, or it could be something else. Am I the selfish person? Am I right? Like always check. Like that's kind of the way I live is like always check myself, to make sure like what am I doing? What is my role in the situation?
Yes.
How am I showing up and how am I, exacerbating or kind of inflaming the situation? So it's like, do you see that once a client is able to do that, that they're able to do it more easily and again and again?
Yeah, that's a really great question as well. When it comes to labeling other people, the work that I do, I tend to stay away from that. So I do
Yeah.
have a client right now that has, in their words, a narcissistic mom. But
Mm,
for me, what's more important is what does that mean to you? Like, how is that
right.
impacting you that that's happening? And how can we keep your identity separate from that? And what is the identity that we're building? Because if you were raised with a narcissistic parent, then you probably have some core inner wounds that are coming out as behavior now, right? So my job is always to like find out what that is and help people heal for that for themselves. And then I also work
Mm,
with communication. So if they were ever to have to communicate with this person and they felt unsafe, then there is a map that I give people to help them communicate from their authentic self instead of from like their fear-based or their protective self. They get a chance to like just talk from their own identity and from and feeling
mhm,
good about themselves. And a lot of times forgiveness is something that we really have to work on a lot in order for that to
mhm.
happen.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, what happens if boundaries were crossed in the past and
Mhm.
person has created a new identity for themselves and feels kind of maybe I don't know, you would need to tell me what the words were would be you would use, but like stronger, they're not going to allow these boundaries to be crossed, whatever that might be. But then what happens if this other person continually doesn't respect the boundary or continually does that? Like, how do you work with that if it's still, I guess, current or present problems?
Yeah, I would teach people how to kind of detach from that. Like, usually when I
Mhm,
do identity work with people, people want to become more loving, more compassionate, more caring, more understanding. So that's their goal. Nothing that I've imposed on them or have told them this is who you need to be. It's things that
mhm,
they want to be a part of their own identity and they want to be serving others and helping others and things of that nature. So that really helps when they do that work and they still have a parent who is crossing boundaries because now they're able to detach and not take that personally. It's like, oh, that person has some upstream work to do. Like that
mm,
person is so far upstream right now, and I'm going to maintain my baseline while they're doing it. So they can really separate what they're taking personal and what not to take personal. They're just kind of on their own mission of like being a more loving person.
yeah, I love that. So, okay, I want to get back to the word fear again because it's popping up for me. Love is explanatory, self explanatory, right? Like we get that. We know where it comes from. We understand the purpose. We get it. Fear, I'm curious about, like, for you, where that comes from. And because the reason why is I keep thinking of the word shame, right? Like that's where people's like what I find people's most inner core wound is something about shame, like something like that they're bad or they're defective and something that their parent
Yeah.
said or did when they were a little
Yeah.
child and had no control over it, then created this story for their whole life. And so I guess here's my question. How do fear and shame connect?
I think that like shame is like shame to me, shame is more connected
Mhm,
to the beliefs that we have and the identity that we have. I would say fear
mhm.
is more connected to the nervous system response and more connected to
Mm,
behavior. So if
okay.
somebody feels shame, then they're going to respond in a fear-based way and withdraw
Ah.
or attack or become defensive or whatever. I think
Mhm, mhm,
I'm so happy you brought shame up because I think
mm.
those are the people that are the hardest to recognize that shame is present, right?
Yes.
Like It's very hard to recognize because you're just seeing the no contact, you're just seeing the withdrawal, you're just seeing the defensiveness. It's really
Mm-hmm.
hard to look behind that and see a boy or a girl that is feeling and carrying shame, or an adult. And
Mm-hmm.
those are the people that we really need to walk beside with love and support and
Yes.
create a safe place for them. We need to be the
Mhm.
safe place that they never had.
Yes, yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Uh, it's funny because I'm curious about how you detect that or pick up on it because I know, like, I have some similar training with you with like
Yeah.
NLP and language and listening to how people's patterns are. For me though, I honestly just have a spidey sense, like my
Yes.
intuition, like I can feel. I think it's because, when I'm coaching, I'm in a very open, empathetic state and I'm reflecting. And so, literally, when someone is reflecting, I can literally feel it in my body. I'm like, "Oh,
Mhm.
this person feels pain." So I'm curious about how it worked for you.
I think it's the exact same thing. I feel like I'm a very intuitive person, that
Mhm.
I keep myself very healthy so that I can show up for my clients, and I get myself into a very good space before I meet with my clients. Like, it's very important for me to have the energy to show up, and I feel like I am very intuitive. But the work that I do, it's also important to know it's very collaborative. Like, I
Yeah,
do not have a crystal ball that tells me what is going on with you, and in 10 minutes we're going to know what your core wounds are, and like, I don't know
right.
any of that. But like I
Yeah.
said, you bring the courage, I will bring the process, and we will walk through this together. And when I hit something that really resonates with them, their whole face changes, their tone changes, like you can just
Mm.
tell that it had a profound impact. And a lot of the people that come and see me have tried other things, like have tried therapy and counseling and all of these other things. And when they get to understanding themselves and going through this inner process, it just unlocks this hidden treasure that they didn't know. They knew something was always in there, but they couldn't access it before. And that's why the nervous system work first is so important, so that they can access more information.
Yes. I once had I've worked with many people personally. I've had therapists, I've
Yeah.
had coaches, I've done groups, I've been in a group. And I had one therapist one time just talked about like it's an onion,
Oh, yeah.
you're just peeling and just going back layer by layer by layer. And so I've done kind of been in and out. And I think one time I took a year or two off and then I called my therapist and I said, "Oh, I bet you wondered what happened to me or something." And she goes, "Oh, I knew you'd be back." Because, there's always a deeper layer. Like, there's al
Yes.
not that it meant anything about me specifically,
Yes.
but she just knows that people sometimes need to just kinda be status quo for a
Yeah.
while, just kind of try their new way of being and their new growth and see how they feel in
Yeah.
that, and then there comes a time where you're like, "I'm ready to go to the next level and see, like, what else is there and how else I can have some growth."
Yes.
I saw a big reaction on your face. What are your thoughts?
You know what? It just reminds me of, something that I tell myself is like, this is the deepest layer of truth that I'm aware of in this moment.
Mm.
Because as I have evolved as a person, I see myself like from for as long as I can remember, I've been a student of life, and like
Yeah.
paying attention to human behavior and all of that kind of stuff. So, of course, I learn more about being human. And
Mhm.
so I always say, like, this is the deepest layer of the truth that I'm aware of, because I
Yeah.
know as I continue this work and help more people and hear from more people, my truth is going to get deeper and deeper and deeper.
Mm. So I'm totally curious, like, how does this show up in your everyday life? Like, you go out to the grocery store or coffee shop, or like, how are you in real life?
Yeah, when you were talking about how you were or how you are as a mom and how you're not coaching
Mhm,
your kids and things like that, I think that I'm kind of the same. Like, I just am Stacy when I'm not
mhm,
working, and so I'm not at the grocery store being like, I wonder what his core wound is, or,
Yeah.
I think that what I do bring is a lot more compassion and love to the people that I
Mhm.
interact with on a daily basis, that I do have that
Mhm.
understanding that we're all human. And there's no behavior on this planet that is going to throw me off into being into like a fear-based state where I feel like I need to be mean to somebody, or
Mhm.
whatever. Unless, I mean, that kind of goes against what I said earlier, whereas, yeah, I do choose to be mad sometimes, or I do choose whatever, but I do so with awareness. And so I do try to bring just the knowledge and the experience I have with being human. Like, I'm human too. I make
Mhm.
mistakes. I'm not always aware. I'm not always perfect. And I go through really tough times in life too, right? Like, I'm not immune from going through the hardships of life. But
Mhm.
it's cliche, but those are the learning, and yeah, those are the learning moments that we need to take. We need to take advantage of those. We need to take advantage of the hard times, because it throws you into the fear state. Hard times throws you more into a fear state than non-hard times. So it's like that is the best time to really
Mhm.
go in and being like, okay, what am I making this mean about who I am?
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Does your teenager tend to freak out when the new school year is about to start? Well, here's the good news, they don't have to. Sign your teen up for my free webinar called How to Start the School Year Without Freaking Out. We will tackle time management, the skills to handle the stress and pressure of school, social life, social media, and the brain body connection behind stress and focus. Sign them up. The link is in my show notes. They're going to love it. And do you find, I mean, now it's just kind of like, let's be friends and let's talk to each other.
Yeah.
But do you find ever, I call it, it's kind of like the meta thinking or meta analysis where you're thinking about your thoughts and kind of like I coach myself from time to time. And sometimes that can be a lot of work. It can be a lot of work to really be constantly like living into, like on the Matrix, where there's these two alternate realities or whatever.
Yeah.
There's kind of like the real life and then there's the life where you're just thinking about your thoughts and about what this means.
Yeah.
It can be pretty draining, which is why also I want to, kind of iterate on about what you said about you're not going to the grocery store thinking, I wonder what your core wounds are, right?
Yeah.
Because that's just too much work. That's just too much thinking.
It
Like at some
is.
point, we do just kind of be us and not be always
Yeah.
kind of like on or thinking or having our coaching hat on. So I wanted to
Yeah.
offer some encouragement about that. I would really just love if it's okay to ask some questions about what your childhood was like and how you got here because of that.
Oh, sure. My childhood, I would describe that as, I would say maybe chaotic.
Okay.
And it's funny because I want to be very careful when I talk about my childhood, because again, this is
Of
never
course.
about blame. It's all
Yeah.
about like the meaning I gave to my own childhood. So my
Mhm.
story about when I was a child is, I would say that I was a lot. Like, I had a t-shirt that said here comes trouble. So I was the one out of 4 kids that was always grounded, that was always in trouble, and I felt very unloved and
Oh,
unseen by my father.
okay.
So that was really tough growing, and I was so aware of this. Like I was so
Mhm.
aware of the identity that I was creating as a kid, and all of these things.
Yeah. Can I ask, and what was your birth order?
I was second born, so
Okay.
second oldest. Yeah.
Okay.
And I always felt like my interactions with my dad was I was getting into trouble. And he wasn't the type of
Mhm.
dad who gave hugs or said, I love you, or read books, like that was mom's job. Or if we were bad during the day, my mom would, say, I'm going to tell your father when he gets home. So there was a lot of fear. One
Mm,
thing that I want to mention too, when children are raised under a lot of fear, they don't tend
mhm.
to have the opportunity to create their own identity. Their identity comes
Yeah.
from not getting into trouble. Like, I'm this
Yes.
way when this happens, but they're constantly on alert, and they don't get a chance to really make mistakes and learn who they truly are. So I feel like that happened to
Mhm.
me. I still do identity work now.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
like, on myself, and the
Mhm.
latest the latest, deepest level of truth that I'm aware of right now for myself is that
Mhm.
I was really scared. One of my fears is to be seen and not chosen.
Oh.
So if I put myself out there and not get
Yeah.
chosen, so that
Mhm.
came from my childhood too, of not being seen. I remember sitting in the kitchen as a teenager, an older teenager. My dad would walk into the kitchen and not even acknowledge my existence. Like he wouldn't say good morning or hello or anything like that. And so I really taught that to feel safe was to be not seen. And so
Mhm.
even in my romantic relationships, that has impacted, in my business, that has impacted. And it was so interesting because that layer of truth for me is why I'm on this
Mhm.
podcast. It's the reason that I stopped
Yeah.
redoing my website and stopped making lead magnets and hiding from people in case I get
Mhm.
rejected, that I'm able to
Mm.
now be like, that's actually not true.
Mm.
Like that was like an unconscious fear that was driving my life and my business, my romantic relationships and my business. That once I became aware of it, now I have the choice to change. I can come on podcasts. I can
Mm.
go out and do things and do more social media and things like that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being vulnerable with us and opening up. That it just felt so pertinent because, in the coaching world, therapists also, they always say, you're trying to heal an earlier
Yeah.
version of yourself. And so your work, it
Yes.
just seems, to overlap. It's, I figured it had
Yeah.
to a lot. And same with me. So, I'm very passionate about teenagers and about helping them build confidence and about helping them. I always say confidence, connection, and direction. So, building those safe relationships and then having direction and being able to
Yeah.
take healthy risks and make healthy choices for their future. And so the earlier version of myself that I'm healing is my teenage self,
Oh.
where I feel confident. And people, it always sounds funny because on the outside, I looked very confident. I was like, cheerleader and I was senior class president and I was always about having like this confident image. I knew how to look confident,
Yeah.
but there was many choices now that, of course, I've spent much time analyzing my earlier years and what I did and why I made the decisions I made. And I realized I was lacking some things. And so I'm here now to like kind of help future
Yeah.
generations and try to coach them into really seeing themselves and creating that safe sense of self for them. Like you said, like a lot of kids don't have their own identity because of other
Yeah.
reasons. And so I really want to encourage both parents and teens to allow their teen to really blossom and flourish into who they were meant to be and, who God created them to be.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, parents sometimes don't get the kids that they wish they had. In fact, that's probably most of the time. Maybe you get a mix, you got, your favorite child and this. And I want to just like wipe the slate clean
Yeah.
and just say the kids that you were meant to have and you are gonna need to find a way to love them all and treat them all and not make them feel dismissed
Yes.
or ignored or anything.
Yeah.
What's your reaction on that?
Yeah.
Because coming from 4 kids, I'm sure you experienced some of
Yeah,
that.
that really touches the core of my heart is making again, it goes back to the children. I know that when I'm working with adults, when I'm working with parents, that's going to ripple down into how they treat their children. And for me, it's how they
Mhm.
treat their pets as well, or even
Oh.
community members. But I think that, and it's good for the parents too. Like when the parents can come from a place of love. I know I've said this before, but a place of calm and a place of love, they feel better about themselves. That is more at the core of who they are, who they were born to be.
Mhm.
We've moved away from that because of our experiences and the meaning in this whole inner process. But they feel amazing when they change, when they work on their inner process, they change their behavior and their kid changes. Like if your kid is having
Mm.
behavior problems, like you really need to take a look at what your own inner process is as a parent because that is what's impacting them. And when you
Mhm.
change your inner process, you change how you react and that ripples down to your kids feeling more loved. When they feel more loved, when they feel more safe, they're going to behave in a different way. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Stacey, this has been an amazing conversation. Is there anything that we didn't cover because we covered quite a bit?
I don't think so. The only thing that I wanted to add was not finishing that story kind of with my dad and how, you
Mm,
know what, I always struggled with whether or not he loved me or not, right? Like that was always a
mm,
question for me, like, does my dad love
mhm,
me? It was because
mm,
his behaviors, I gave meaning to his behaviors when his behaviors towards me was not his intention. And so I think that that's like a
yeah,
really important distinction, that it was me putting meaning on him when that wasn't his
right,
intention. So we can't blame our parents. And my dad also has his own human story of how he was
right.
raised by my grandpa and by my grandma,
Mhm,
and
yeah.
so it is that generational thing that he formed an identity about who he was as a father
Mhm,
from his
mhm,
upbringing,
yeah.
and then put that onto us. And then, of course, um, being aware of that helps stop that trauma and that generational trauma from continuing. But I think that that was just something that I wanted to finish my thoughts on.
I'm glad you did. Yeah, and having compassion because, um, as kids, you don't always understand what parents are
Yeah,
going through. But now that I'm just about to be 50, I've lived a long time. I'm an adult. There are times when I am in hyper focus
yeah,
and I'm thinking about something deeply, and my child, I mean, I always say hi to them when they walk in the room, but like maybe I don't respond right away, or maybe they've told me something 3 times and
right.
I forgot because my brain just didn't process it the first two times, right? And so they could easily someday be talking to a coach like yourself and say, well, my mom this and my mom that.
Yes,
And really, if they can, see like, "Oh, it doesn't mean anything about me.
yes.
It's, my mom was in her own world, and she had, 10,000,000 things
Mhm.
going on, and really that doesn't mean she doesn't love me. That was just what I" is that kind of
That's
like where you're
exactly
going with.
that's exactly it. Yeah, that's exactly
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
okay. Well, with that said, how can people find you and work with you?
Probably the best place to start is my website,
Okay,
stacygreer.com.
okay.
And feel free, there's the human story on there. Go sign up and be a peace builder so that we can get the family peace project in motion. And
Okay.
just to recap on that, for every 1,000 peace builders that we get signed up, we do a free workshop or training in the community, which is nominated by the peace builders and voted on by the peace builders. So it's a very important project. We're trying to help 1 million families
I
through
love
the
it.
Family Peace Project. So it's a huge mission that we need everyone to be a part of,
Yes.
and just really excited about that. So yeah, go check out the website, book a complimentary call with me, check out the services, the nervous system programs on there, and I
Mhm.
look forward to hearing from you and helping you figure out your inner process and your journey and everything else.
Well, Stacey, thank you so much for the time. This has been an amazing conversation. You're an awesome guest, and I'm super excited to go on. As soon as we get
Yeah,
off, I will become a peace builder
thank
myself. So
you.
I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
When you get a chance, please go to the show notes and click on the link ratethispodcast.com/tphmom to give my podcast a rating and review. And if this episode resonates with you, be sure to share it with your mom friends who are going through the same things. Be sure to tune in for next week's conversation. Until then, keep up the good work.